Hi, I'm Caroline Leavitt, and I want to tell you some fun facts and some not so fun facts about four of my backlists that is coming out from Dzanc Books and Open Road Media. The first book in the series, and they're all coming out August 5th, and you can buy them anywhere that ebooks are sold, so you can support your indie bookstore. First one is Meeting Rosie Halfway. And this book is important because I never intended to write it. I had rejection after rejection after rejection, and I had finally published a little short story because that's what I was going to do. I wanted to be a short story writer in the Michigan Quarterly Review, and I got an agent, and she said, short stories aren't selling, and they weren't back then. And she said, I want you to write a novel. So I had no idea what to write about. And I started this novel, and everybody hated it at the agency. And there were murmurs that, maybe they were going to drop me, and I was very nervous. And then I wrote this short story, Meeting Rosie Halfway, about two sisters growing up in Boston. And the older one, the beautiful, glowing one, slowly begins to go mad. And it's up to her younger sister, who's smart and plainer, to take care of her. So that story was published, and it won the prize in the Red Books Young Writers Contest. And suddenly all these publishers were coming to me saying, this is a novel, we want it, we want it. And I told my agent, I don't know how to write a novel. She said, I'll help you. And she did, though I threw up a lot, I agonized, I was a nervous wreck. And right before the book came out, there was all this buzz about it. It was supposed to be the next biggest thing. And suddenly, I got a lawsuit. The main characters in my novel are called Ben, B, and Rosie Nelson. And Rosie is the one who has the mental illness. The main names of the people suing me were Ben, B, and Rosie Neiman. And their daughter Rosie had mental illness. They also grew up in Boston, where I grew up. And they also, coincidentally, lived an hour away from where I was living then, which was in Pittsburgh. So there were all sorts of questions. The publisher called me in and said, are you sure you don't know these people? And I kept saying, no, I have no idea who they are. And they were causing so much trouble that the publisher said, look, we won't change the names in the hardback, but we have to change them in foreign editions. Does that bother you? And I said, fine, that's okay. You can just do that so the book will get published. So that was my first one. It did so well. It also got a movie deal at Paramount, which unfortunately was dropped during the writers and directors strike, that they bought my second book, Lifelines. Lifelines is the story of a woman who may or may not be able to tell the future. And she feels everybody has a destiny, including her daughter, who grows up chafing against that destiny. The book did really well. Publishers Weekly gave it a star and called it an extraordinary novel, complex and original. Washington Post said that Leavitt has staked out a territory of her own, an excellent novel. So that novel did pretty well, and I hope you'll read it. The third novel in the list is this novel called Family. And unfortunately, my other publisher went out of business, so I had to look around for a new publisher. And my agent found one called Arbor House, which was this very literary, prestigious house. And they were really hot for the book, and they really wanted to do the book. And I thought, this is great. So they bought the book, which is about Nick Austin, an orphan who always wants the idea of family, but he's always afraid it's going to be taken away from him. So his solution is to have two families with two different women. And he has a daughter, a teenage daughter, and it's about what havoc ensues when the daughter discovers what's going on. Family was called a fine first novel by the Boston Globe. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution said the characters are true and their feelings are significant. Miss Leavitt makes it impossible not to care about them. And the New York Times Book Review said there's no denying this author's talent. That was really nice. So here I am at Arbor House, and guess what happens? A week before the book is due to come out, the sales force all leaves. And then it's announced, Arbor House is going out of business. The book comes out, it gets those wonderful reviews, but then it dies because there's no sale force. I was heartbroken. totally heartbroken. I told my agent next time, I want a publisher that's big and established. I don't want it to go out of business. So she got me a 3-book deal with Warner Books. And that's the last book in this series, which is Into Thin Air. Into Thin Air is a book about a young woman who leaves a hospital room hours after giving birth to her child. She abandons her husband as well. And then years later, she decides to come back. And it's about all the problems that ensues when she does come back. The book was praised by the Baltimore Sun, who said it had fresh and vivid language. Library Journal compared me to Jane Smiley and Ann Tyler, and they made the book one of their hidden gems of the year, and the Gainesville Sun called it an emotional roller coaster. Now, the interesting thing about Into Thin Air is that it had a movie deal, and this was the first time that I decided I was going to write the script. So my agent said, "Oh, have you written scripts before?" I never had. But I said, "Yes, of course I have, many of them." So when the producer called, he said, "Oh, you've written scripts?" And I said, "Yes, of course." He said, "FedEx them to me." I hung up the phone and panicked. I ran down to the local bookstore and I bought up all the books I could find in screenplays. And I sat up all night trying to write the script. And in the end, I only had the first scene, but I sent it to him and he said, "Why did you lie to me? This is not a script. This is terrible." And I said, "Well, I really, really want to do this." And he said, "Why should I let you?" And I said, "Because I'll do it for free." So that was my screenwriting career. And during this, for 3 days, Madonna was interested in making this book her directorial debut. And the producers were telling me, "Don't say anything to anybody about it. If People Magazine calls you, you direct them to us, the producers. You're not allowed to say anything." And I had all these visions in my head, like, is this a good thing that Madonna wants to do this, or is this a bad thing? And I couldn't tell. Of course, in the end, Madonna decided to go off and do a tour, and that was that. So anyway, those are my first 4 books. They're my babies. They're really hard to find now, and I'm so delighted and so grateful to Dzanc Books and Open Road Media for bringing them back. I hope you'll read them. I hope you'll tell me if you like them, and if you don't like them, you can tell me that too. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.